Here.
Here.
Member DeLong.
Here.
We've got a quorum to do business. First item is consider approval of the minutes from the June 12th, 2025 special board meeting, which was our budget work session. I think Kathy distributed those minutes earlier. Kathy distributed those minutes earlier. Does anybody have any changes, corrections? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor of adopting minutes say aye.
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 Those opposed, minutes are adopted. Next item, 2.1, consider approval of the workers' compensation renewal in the amount of $116,399.59. Hans, or Tyler, you gonna take it?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
Good evening. Staff recommends that the board approve the renewal of the FPB's workers' compensation coverage with Kentucky Employers Mutual Insurance, KEMI, as we all know them. The renewal premium has increased 11.94% from last year due directly to our experience modification factor increasing from 0.73 to 0.85. The renewal premium, if approved, is, as you said earlier, $116,399.59, and will be effective July 1st, 2025.
And our insurance is with KEMI, which is the state-created workers' comp agency. And I assume Hans, Tyler, our consultants, looked at other options, looked at, if there's anything we could do. And from what I understand, this is in line with what we think, based on our experience rating, would be reasonable.
With us, our agent. I'll turn that over to him.
You want to ask him to come up?
Yes, sir. He's back here with us. He can tell us about the market and kind of how things compare. My understanding is just the mod factor is what caused it to grow up. Basically, we had a few people get banged up, and
Steve, how you doing?
don't happen.
Good evening, board. Thank you for having me. And Tyler kind of stole my thunder, but the experience mod factor, which is calculated by NCCI, which is the National Council on Compensation Insurance, the premium, if the mod didn't go up, it would have actually decreased. So the premium overall went up 11.94%, and that was a direct correlation of about a 12-point swing in the mod.
And we had a couple of claims during the year, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what that factor is?
It is. It takes your loss history and what medical payments and everything were made out to. And then you guys are actually still 15 points below the standard, which is a 1. So you're still getting a 15-point discount, roughly.
So, any questions for Stanley on? And David, you've built this into the budget.
Yes, sir. When we go over the amendments, we did increase it 6,500 from to account for this change.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Tyler or Hans or Stanley? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Policy is adopted. Thank you, sir. Next item is financials. First item is financial statements for the month ending May 31st. Mr. Denton.
Good evening. What we have before you tonight is financial statements through the 11 months ending May 31st, 2025. So this is getting ready close to the end of fiscal year 25. I'll just hit some of the highlights, very similar to what we've talked about in months past. This is looking at page 35, our statement of net position. The story all year has been the volume of investment put back into property, plant, and equipment through the first 11 months of this year. The plant board's invested $16.5 million in making sure we can keep safe, reliable utilities. So that's the biggest story on the statement of net position, or otherwise known as the balance sheet. When you look at financial performance for the company, looking at our revenue and expense performance through the first 11 months, I'm looking at page 40. Overall, you look at total revenue, we're up about 1.7% versus expenses, which are up 0.29. So we'll still be able to keep a little bit of a margin there to be able to make sure we can reinvest back into the plant and also have sufficient for debt service and cash reserves. So we did have a little activity between the last time we saw you with our auditors, just a little bit of interim financial or audit procedures within the last month. So that'll be picking up significantly in August. We typically, in the month of July, would ask for a reprieve from financial reporting while we get our books closed and reconciled for the month, and then we would bring the June and July statements to you all at the August meeting.
Okay.
So that'll
Is
be a
everybody
lot of,
Okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay.
so that's a really quick summary of where we are through the 11 months. Be glad to answer any questions.
And I just wanted to point out for the auditors, and I think everybody's aware of this, you know, the auditors are gonna be in here. If any board member has something that's concerning you that you wanna talk to the auditors about, you feel free, you can talk to them directly, confidentially. I mean, if you say, I want this looked at or whatever, they give us that opportunity every year and that's available. And you don't clear that with, you just, if you wanna talk to them, you tell them you wanna talk to them. And, so with that, do we have a motion to accept the financials for the month ending May 31st? Or just first, does anybody have any questions of David? If not, do we have a motion to accept the financials?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, financials are adopted. The next item is consider approval of the 2025-26 fiscal year budget and accepting the 5-year plan. You've got several handouts in front of you. You've got one that David prepared, I think he'd sent everybody earlier in the day, and it shows, it looks like this. It shows all the changes from the June 12th meeting. The only thing we have to do is consider the 2 items that we asked for additional information on. So, first, we've got this, so that's the budget, which is still open, so if anybody disagrees with anything that's on here, wants to change anything, talk about it. We've not formally adopted this. This rolls up, that's now in the budget draft, everything we talked about on the 12th. What's on the table at this point is 2 things. One is you've got a narrative like this, that's justification for adding a full-time producer director. And then Nichelle has put together, the information in terms of what we talked about in terms of the salary information. That's highlighted, that's in front of you. So let's go on, if it's all right with everybody, let's take we can ask Kathy to come up, or David Columbia, we can discuss it. Or if someone wants to make a motion on the adding a full-time producer director, whatever the board's preference is.
Do you mind if I just jump in here?
Sure.
I really am glad they put this together. I think it lays it out really well. Yeah, I think the key that I'm getting from this is not adding but reinstating. It's been an open position from a retirement, so they've been working, sounds like for a while, short-staffed. while
But it
maybe-
wasn't in the budget that we considered, right, the vacancy, correct.
But at the same time, their needs of the community may have been growing, and they've been just trying to make it work. And I think we see that with, the amount of money they've been spending on part-time staff and the potential overtime. So, I don't know, when I do the math, on the low end, you add 25 potentially in additional revenue to 8,000 to 10,000, that's closes the gap, 43 out of
Yeah,
65,000.
the closest I could get to it was, the cheapest we could come out is it nets to about 20.
And that's
Yeah,
about
net,
20,
net.
yeah. And then
But
on the high,
that's
end.
hoping the advertising comes through, but definitely, I think the overtime is some hard savings. And
Yeah.
I think the theory was, if we have additional resources, we can generate new advertising for those new events.
Right, and then on the high end, if it's the 10, and the 35, then we're almost at 55 or 65.
Right.
So, to me, we're already spending most of this money, or we're missing revenue money we can pick up. So, and it sounds like directly burning out our staff, who are juggling all these and being asked to work late nights and things like that on weekends. So, I think it's pretty straightforward the way they laid it out, and since it's a replacement of a position that used to be there due to a retirement, not due to us agreeing to downsize to 3, it's just someone retiring. I think there's a pretty strong emphasis to go ahead and approve it. But
So before you make a motion, Steve,
That's
do you
fine.
want to comment, then Catherine?
Question, is this a director position, or is it?
No.
Is it producer director?
It's yeah, but it's by director, they mean kind of a
Video director.
video director, yeah, not a division director, right. Catherine?
I appreciate everything, Jason said, and I've given this a lot of consideration. I don't feel like we should do this. That's gonna be my position.
Okay.
first of all, I respect Gary's opinion, and I think from his standpoint, he did seem like he was particularly in favor of this with the overall view of the agency. Our telecom budget has, I believe, the narrowest margin, and this, the budget for media services is, you know, a chunk of that. And, you know, at some point, if we keep adding staff, it could increase rates, particularly in telecom, obviously, because this is under their budget, and we have to kind of look at separate pots of money here in our budget consideration. I appreciate all the explanation. I think we all have appreciated everything media services does. And I'm glad we heard even more detail about that. And the other day at our work session, and I do understand there is a retirement that happened. I was hopeful of some of the things that were said during the work session of how they could do more with less, which is what they've been doing, but even more so that some of the things that they're working on will help them still have the same product, so to speak, without increasing staff potentially. So I'm gonna have to not be in favor of this right now.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
I
So-
pretty much go along with Catherine's assessment. I think it's a speculative venture in a time when our revenue is not certain. And I understand the rationale of generating money from a position. It's speculation right now, and the times don't seem to be favorable for those types of things. So I tend to agree with Catherine on her position.
Okay. We got two options. We can have a motion to adopt, or we can just, I don't wanna say lay it on the table, we can just take no action. What's the board's preference?
John, do you have any?
You know, this is, I'm really torn on this. I agree with a lot of what Catherine and Steve mentioned. It is speculative, but I would probably come down on the side of doing this. And the reason why is this is filling a position that we lost to retirement. And I am desperately concerned about driving our employees, running them to the brink and losing good employees. It's not my phone, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Not secure.
I'm worried about, you know, these people that have to work all these nights and that becoming untenable for them. And, you know, once we lose another person, you know, you're going to be scrambled to replace them. Cable 10 is one of those things, and the programming we provide, it's what sets us apart from any other provider. If AT&T or Spectrum or whatever was the provider for this area, they wouldn't get any of this stuff. And it is, you know, among the most popular things we do. Around 10, you know, what we've done with that. I just think that to me it's a close call, but I would probably vote in favor of it. So that leaves the ball, Mr. Chairman, in your court.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we vote on it. Well, let me make one other thing.
Okay.
I'd say if we vote on it and we decide not to do it, maybe we should have another conversation where we sit down with Kathy and David and to talk about how we could help as the board to restructure
And that
their
I mean,
requirements.
all we're voting for right now
Right,
is to include it in the budget.
right, that's it.
If the
Actually,
motion is to include.
that conversation should come before we do this.
Well,
Because I think part of the issue is there another route to alleviate a problem as opposed to,
well, let me reframe what I just said. I think we heard pretty well from them on our last meeting that if they want to continue to deliver the services they deliver, and even then they're a little already 10% over expanded, then they would need this position to just make this work. But if in my mind, it's not a question as how do we keep getting what you get with what we have, it's how do we decide to actually scale back what we do for the community in this regard, and so that's a totally different conversation.
One
Steve.
thing we could do, just throw this out, is we can make a motion to include it, and include in that motion to not fill the position, and ask, and we've done it before, ask two of you who have an interest to meet with Kathy, Harvey, David Columbia, go through everything, bring that report back to the board, and then at that point decide whether to fill. If we don't fill it, money just drops to the bottom line. If we decide to fill it, then it'll be less expensive for this first year because we'll be a couple months into the year.
Okay. I think that's, I like, is if everyone's on the same page, that's maybe what I want to include in the budget, but I guess I'd like to team up with someone if people want me involved in that.
Sure.
And just work with Kathy and David to really go through this, because once again, I think John summed up really well, is we talk about a lot as a plant board how we're different than these other providers and how we're sort of the community's utility, and this truly is, outside of our billing, almost the biggest way that the community interacts with us as a whole, either seeing us out at games or watching it or catching on YouTube. So I think to lose that, especially with the other forms of media we have in the community scaling back, and I don't say we're becoming a news channel,
Right.
we play a vital role that if we are going to scale back, I'd like as a board to decide how we're going to scale back strategically to make sure we don't burn out the staff we do have. So I guess I'm making a motion to include it in the budget with the caveat that you made, that we would then have a little subcommittee
And
meeting.
that the committee would come back and report to the board in August? Middle of August, or at that August regular meeting? As to the recommendation whether to fill or not?
Well, maybe it could be a little more flexible than that, because, I
I
mean,
would
the
say
question
that's a
is,
60-day window, so.
yeah, maybe 90. My
Sure,
only
I mean, whenever, yeah.
The question could be too is, could we have a different position? It doesn't need to be a $65,000 position. It could be a 30, could it be a lower junior
Sure.
position? Like, do we need that level of a position, or can we have a more junior person who's maybe we're training up to play some roles? So maybe in diving deeper in exactly what they need, we could find a compromise even in the price of the salary and the experience of the person we're looking for.
So
you know?
report back to the board by the September board meeting?
I'd be in favor of that. I know summer's busy and people are traveling. I know I got a lot going on.
Do we have a motion?
With all those caveats.
Budget
I don't believe
not
not restate
filled
them.
until two board members have a chance to work, review everything, and then come back no later than the September meeting
And we
and make a
would-
recommendation
and then
on
we
whether
would-
to fill or not.
And then in what type of position that
Right.
ultimately is.
So do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Anybody want to amend, change, modify that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, so we've adopted to put that in, David. The next item, Michelle, you want to come up?
Oh, real quick, it would be one of you guys.
What?
Who would be tag team me with that? Which one of you guys want to do?
Oh,
What?
to be on the review team.
Yeah, it
I
can't,
can
it
be
can't
on
be
it,
me and
but I mean,
John.
We just voted no, so.
Well, I think it makes sense to be one of you
I
guys,
don't
right?
mind, I don't mind,
Okay,
I don't
Steve.
mind.
Okay, me and Steve, okay.
We'll get you some in-house, some name, image, and likeness. and-
Okay, does that work, Steve?
I just want to sabotage, that's the only reason I.
No, I mean, it's good. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's the way to do it.
I mean, we've done that on other things, and I think that works out well for a couple board members to
Yeah.
take a little deeper dive. And
Well, it makes sense that two people on slightly different sides of
Yeah.
the issue, we're bringing our own perspective to it, so.
the next item is the list that I thought I did an artful job last time with my magic marker, but Michelle has come in and cleaned up my work, and you've got that in front of you, with the highlights in yellow, and with basically what we talked about last time. And I think at this point, we can approach it how everybody wants. We can take each item, we can take it as a package. One other item that's in here that we did not talk about, but that we've historically done, I know the last several years, is that for the 3% increase, the regular COLA, we have some employees that we need to waive the max in order for them to get the full 3%, or they would be capped at whatever the 3% take. It could take them 1%, 1.5%, 2%, whatever it would take them. But we've normally waived that, and that's priced out in this package also.
Let me ask a quick, to that
Sure.
point. Can you get a pay raise if you're at the max of your grade?
If we waive it,
No, without us waiving it.
no, I don't think, I think
No,
if,
based on the current
Policy.
policy, no.
You mean the current policy meaning started July 1st of last year to now.
no, even before that, we've always had to waive that. Like if the max of the grade is 48 and the 3% would take you to 48.5, you would block at 48.
I see about 10 people on this list I got that got promotions and pay raises that put them above the maximum grade.
And, my count, once you add the 3%, is 11. So there are gonna be 11 employees that if we do the 3%, that would.
Now, I'm talking about over the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, okay.
I see,
And we've waived it the last years too, each budget,
we waived
the max, for people to get the COLA.
And I
Okay.
believe that started the year that, inflation was high and we received the 8% cost of living.
Where in this document does it talk about waiving it?
If you go
It's
to
not,
the line,
go ahead.
the line item is what, on page 1, 2, 3, 4, top line?
I don't know, I don't think as far as them receiving, I just mentioned that to you.
Yeah,
before
but you
the-
haven't, did you include that in these
Yes,
figures?
yes, it's in this count though.
Right.
Yes, yes. So the
So that's
individ-
so assuming we would waive it, it's already in these numbers.
Yes,
Okay,
But that is an action we have to take, that's not automatic.
okay, okay.
So, how do y'all want to proceed? We can talk about them individually, we can vote as a package, or we don't have to take any action at this time, as Nichelle and I talked. If no one feels comfortable tonight moving, this envisions, we do the 3% July 1st, and then this comes after. We could do this in July, we could do it in August. Nothing requires us to act on this now. It would make it cleaner, we'd have to do a budget amendment, but that, we can certainly do that. It's whatever the board's preference is, because I know everybody wanted to see the figures, and so however y'all want to proceed.
Well, I would prefer not to do a budget amendment if we kind of know what we want to do
Sure.
now. I don't think we need to kick it down the road and,
Steve and I come from a long history of budget amendments in our prior life, so.
I mean, I think they have their place.
Yeah.
I'm glad that, these figures are doing COLA first.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that makes sense. If we're looking at the, bringing people that are already below minimum, under the, new salary structure up, to, I guess, minimum, right?
yes.
That makes sense if we're going to use our,
The new
the
structure.
core and the
Yes.
field and the electrical scale
Yes,
structure. And we went to Corn Ferry for a reason, and my understanding is when the issue about having even the field, it was meant to encompass at least a lot of the electrical workers, correct? The field structure.
yes.
But then we've now proposed a separate.
Structure for the electric, yes.
Yes. And my understanding is you did take that back to Corn Ferry for them to look at and to do basically more market research specific to who would really be competing against locally, regionally. And so, this salary structure is basically, with their expert recommendation.
Yes, we were able to provide, and I won't say what agencies, but we compared to 8 electric agencies to help with, we provided the information to Corn Ferry, like you said, because those are our competitors for them to review and look at.
So this structure that they've come up with is based on, one of the things I know that I was always frustrated with the group we had before is a lot of times they would use agencies that were out of state or whatever, comparisons. They used actually real competitors in our market. Is that
Yes.
correct?
yes, with the help of the superintendent, the electric superintendent, we were able to get that information
Okay.
and provide it to them. And so going forward, that was one of the things that they did mention, because they don't have access to some of these private companies, is that we would have to continue to provide that information to them in order for them to make an analysis.
Okay.
And before this worksheet got further revised, the prior one also showed options of doing like a 3% before, 3, 2, or 1% before. This is with not doing that.
Correct.
Okay. The other two, sports services director reclassification, the heavy truck equipment reclassification.
That's the one I want lobby for, though.
Yeah.
The heavy truck, 3 years on the heavy truck. We've been through this heavy truck a lot.
Yes, it took us almost over 2 years to hire for that position. We were able to hire an individual, and that was one of the positions where we had to ask Gary to hire in at more. So it has been a struggle. Hopefully we will keep everyone that we currently have, but if we would have to, we want to make sure that that's been fixed.
Yeah.
So as far as for the current budget, when David did the some of the more recent updates and put that into the proposed, that actually came out less. But then we have the service center improvement, which I just don't think we have an option to do or not. So if you combine that service center project, and then these salary adjustments, including all the benefits and everything, at like 180,000 for this year. You know, we're getting close to $1 million. And I did ask if we can handle that. And cash flow wise, the answer was yes.
So the plant board, yes, we have not invested at the level of capital projects that we anticipated. So we're gonna be about 10 million below spending or investment. So that's gonna push everything out. So that does help with cash. And if the board feels these payroll adjustments are necessary, it's, you know, is it a priority? So.
I mean, I think these are the, I don't know how else to put it, the cheapest way to do them, doing the 3% COLA, not doing the 3, 2, or 1% on top of the electrical employee salary scale. So I am in favor of these proposed salary adjustments. Of the KSU, I'm completely in favor of the internship. I just think, and I did talk to Mr. Cuban about this.
And Michelle told me, I asked her your question before we got started. She said they can't work more than 99 hours in a month.
Right.
And I think.
And so I just did it at the max, but because of KPPA, they won't be able to work, and we're estimating maybe 20 hours a week, but it could be less.
Right. Well, I guess there was a little hope put in me that we could still do the internship, but have the budgets, whatever, if it's an electrical or telecom, that would kind of be absorbed in the budget we've already set for them.
If we assign one of these interns either to water or to electric or telecom, and they work more at the 10, 12 hours a week range, you know, they'll go, you know, the students, you know, they'll go home at Thanksgiving, Christmas, and so forth. I mean, so I think this figure here, I think it could be probably close, I guess, Catherine, based on the quick math you and I were doing earlier today, more in the range of about maybe 6,000 or so per intern. Again, you know, and this basically does similar to what we talked about on the other, with the telecom, is this puts it in the budget. The next phase is Gary needs to go back and work with Dr. Acuppa and see, do they have two students who have an interest in the plant board and what we do, and do they want to work here? And Catherine brought up, because it's a good learning opportunity and a chance for us to recruit possible new employees, but it also takes time to work with the interns. I mean, they're going to have questions. It's a learning experience, so we need to find the right people who want to do it, that they want to be here. It's a good fit for us. So again, this puts the money in, but we're a long way from having somebody on board. But I know you, Gary, you've talked, at least twice, 3 times to Dr. Acuppa?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. And also potentially we can open up for the work study, which is if they have a program, they have a paid student, if they want to gain some real life, for their resume or their future employment. And this is also open up that too.
Right.
potentially.
Well, I think it would show a commitment if we put it in the budget. I would like to cut that in half, though. I'd like to do 15.
Okay.
I think particularly to start out with, maybe we make sure we can get one in, rather than trying to do 2. Kind of agree with that.
And the magic of the 99 hours is, under the KRS or CRS, if it's less than 100, then you don't have to pay retirement. You don't have to pay that. And if it's in CRS, it's 18%. If it's KRS, it's way
You
up
don't
there,
want
but this
that.
will be CRS, so.
So I don't know if somebody can quickly do what that would, with the fringe and everything, what 15 in salary would be.
Are you talking about the whole?
Cashier?
Yeah,
Well, it says including 7.5%
Yeah, we'd have to pay
fringe,
FICA.
FICA.
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, on the last page, the 52, would you just half the 52 amount, David?
Yes.
On, it's got down there for the 2 positions, it's got 52.9, so you'd be looking at 26.5 for the 1.
Yeah, if you're at 15,000 plus an additional 7.65 for our match, you're just at 16,200.
Yeah, so altogether it rolls up, the new figure, the yellow highlight figure becomes 205, roughly,
Becomes what?
205. Instead of 232,
On the last page.
last page,
Last page.
or the one,
Wait, can I break it down? So the
page 4.
KSU, that bottom line with the fringe would be what?
Additional 1,200.
So 16.
I just took the 52.9
I
divided by 2.
just took the 52.9 and
Made
divided
it
it in
26,000.
half, because there's gotta be something
What?
else that was going into that.
Did I do that
Okay.
right?
Well, whatever, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
I have my calculator. Okay.
that's a little.
Huh? Okay. What did you get, David? I'm sorry.
Well, on the previous page, you include 6.5% fringe, FICA and Medicare on top of the 30,000 to get that 52 number, so,
There
cutting
must be
that from
something
2 to
off on
1.
it. It's
Yeah.
just a little high, so it should be about 2,300
Okay,
total.
all right. So that number would go even further down.
Yeah.
It should be closer to 2,300, so which would drive your number down to around 200,000 total on that total amount
Yeah.
from that.
So John, can you explain, the general, in their pay raise of 3%,
3% is the COLA, which would be effective on July 1st.
and then
Any actions we approve on this sheet would follow that either on July 16th or August 1st.
well, for me, I just feel like all these things are in a vacuum. I have nothing to anchor anything to. I look at that, and I've always agreed with these positions that here need, probably need some help, perhaps. But their pay rate over the last 4 years have been, I hate to say 70%. And so I don't know how.
Counting promotions, reclasses, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
class promotion with that. It's not, I just don't know how how you justify that on that, on top of that. I'm not asking you for that answer, that's a rhetorical question, so,
The witness does not have to respond.
I mean, and each one of these positions on here are like that. Over the performance over the last 4 years have been just like what I've just said. And so it's almost like you got, we're not looking at, I don't see this, we're looking at it in different contexts. One, just global compared to the outside world, and I'm kind of looking at it also as how has this position moved over the last 6, 7, 8 years, and the pattern that is going over 6 and 8 years. Because as I said the last meeting, this is like a cancer. This won't hurt you right now. It's going to creep and creep and creep and hurt you. And then when we get into 29 and 30, when we're out there in uncharted waters, and revenue is not exactly certain, that's when the cancer metastasizes. And that's what I'm looking at it right now. This growth has been like this for the last 6, 7 years. It's been below midpoint, COLAs, get to midpoint, promotions, reclasses, and it goes on and on, and it results in these compounding percentage increases that, you know, it's hard for me to vote for. So I just leave it at that.
Any other questions for Nichelle? Any other comments on the sheet? Any other questions on the numbers or whatever? And so I guess where we're at is, we're kind of back to where we were on the telecom. What's the board's preference at this point? We can have a motion to adopt this sheet as amended by the adjustments we made on the interns. We can pause it, come back and discuss it later, or we can pick off any of these items individually or as a group if we want to proceed with them.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the proposed salary adjustments and the proposed KSU part-time internship budget by half.
Okay.
Can I ask one
Sure.
question? The recommended core field base structure, that's built into those, into the ones that you want to reclass and the ones that exist now?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, so if we use that.
So those costs are built into that 230?
Yes, because the first is where, number 2, if you do adopt the structure, the 2 structures, those individuals are gonna fall below the minimum of the new structure, so we would like to bring them up to the minimum. And then for the electric, that's the scale that I work with Korn Ferry so that's the number right here is after the 3% with the new scale. So the individuals that we need to move up for the electric will receive a 3%, and then we're going by the proposed.
So those costs are in the 200?
Yes. Yes.
And I will say this, when we had the discussion, which we had a lot of discussion on Korn Ferry, and we went with it for a couple of reasons. One, they're a very large national organization. They do the state government's work. You know, we don't know how state government's using their data, but we know whatever we're seeing in data, that state government's seeing that same data. They're the same source. And one of the things, and I had, you know, going back and forth on Korn Ferry, the one thing I liked most about what they recommended was they did come back with the field structure on electric, water, and telecom, and then core for all the other administrative. And to me, that was important simply for the fact that on those 3 business lines, we are in direct competition with the private sector in this community. And we've always talked about it, that we train people and then they can be stolen by another employer. A lot of state government's not that same way. Some parts of state government is, IT, some other areas. But and Steve raises some great points, and it's a tough business. Because we need the linemen, we need the water workers, we need the telecom people, And we basically have to either steal from someone else and bring them here, or hopefully pay them enough that they don't leave us. And once we change, and we talked about this last time, when we went to Tier 3 in retirement, everybody did. The Tier 1, which was a very strong system, is no more. And Tier 3 is not as strong a system, so we basically have the same retirement system now that the private sector does. The 401k is basically what Tier 3 is, with some tweaks, but it's in essence the same. So, I mean, and Steve's right on the concerns. I mean, we're trying to compete in an area, we're trying to keep rates in line, and we're competing with the private sector who are going to pay what they need to do to offer their product. And in addition to that, we offer some value-added services like in telecom that other people don't offer, but we're not charging for. So I mean, Steve raises some very valid concerns that we have to weigh, because whatever we adopt here will be in the budget when we see it next year on July 1st. We'll already be in the base.
Everybody, it's just a truism that everybody eats down the food chain.
Mm-hmm.
You can slow the eat, but you cannot stop it. And so there's no need of us trying to stop it. We cannot stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my real point here, is that you need to be more conservative in how we spend money, because the future is really uncertain, particularly in this business. As far as the community service, I'm all for doing the community service, but there's a balance there. There's a tipping point, because we are a utility firm, and some of those ratepayers do not watch Channel 10 or enjoy some of those others, for whatever the reason is. So I can't make them pay for things that they don't want, or don't watch, or don't see the value in. So there's a balance, and there's a tipping point for that. So that's what I'm saying, on that position, that's what I'm looking at.
And I will add one other thing. I've watched the General Assembly the last two sessions with Korn Ferry's help, primarily the debate, and John's seen it in the Senate, battle on grade compression, which is a real issue in state government, where younger employees are pushing up against more tenured employees making the same salary. And they've yet to figure out well, there's ways to solve it, but it's got a big price tag. But you do face where a 20-year employee and a 10-year employee are close to the same dollars. You can say, well, that's what the job pays. But people will say, no, experience and tenure is worth something. So they've struggled with it. Korn Ferry has given them numerous reports, and they've sent the personnel cabinet back numerous times to try to solve it. And they've seen it, but they keep saying, we can't spend that much. It's not easy to solve some of this stuff. It really isn't.
And Michelle, what is, I mean, obviously you've put this forward. You've looked at these numbers exhaustively. Overall, the morale of the staff, like, if we do portions of this and not the whole enchilada, I mean, this is pretty public. Do you think it's going to affect the overall morale, or do you think there's going to be any impact on how staff sort of sees our commitment to them and how we support them?
I do, because we are currently working from a 2022 salary grade structure. That was postponed to do any adjustments to that because we wanted to look at Korn Ferry. And here we are, like 3 years later, and we've kind of gone back and forth with Korn Ferry, and it started with just, they offered us a package. We tried to piece the package together. And so I think it's been a long, a long road. So just for my staff and the employees, they've been waiting, just to see what the outcome is. So I think it would kind of lessen morale.
Lessen morale to not do something? To not do something.
To not, yes, I'm sorry, to not do anything.
We have Catherine's motion to adopt the report that's in front of us with the adjustments on the intern salaries, which this also includes, and I want to make sure everybody that what your motion is, that does your motion include waiving the maximum so that all employees get the COLA?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So does anybody have a second or a different motion? or we have
So-
silence.
So once again, your motion is to approve pretty much everything in here except reduce the internship position.
From 2 to 1. Yeah.
And Steve, that, your concern is, that's the cancer, as you called it.
Yeah, it is a cancer. I mean, it's not this one action item, but it's the pattern that we have done over every year since I've been on here. It's been the same thing. Next year, this will go up next year. And then we'll be back in the same boat. We'll pay $85,000 to Corn Ferry, and they will give us a revised report that says these rates, these levels went up, and then we will adjust these salaries to that, plus a COLA.
But let me just ask you this, I mean, you've spent much of your career with budgets and things like that, this is not an area I'm very strong in, but isn't that the nature of inflation, isn't that the nature of the economy, isn't that the nature of all of this, that every year?
Then you're assuming that both of those things go hand in hand in a business, and they don't. The economy and the economy somewhat runs separate from business. Now, business try to keep up with the economy, but sometimes for a business decision, the business decision may be it's too costly for us to keep up with the economy. We have to do something different. And all I'm saying is, in the case of some oppositions, we will never reach KU's level. So why are we chasing a rabbit that we can never catch and chasing ourselves into some fiscal problem later on in the future?
Well, and I appreciate your perspective and all your experience, but I don't even know if we have to chase KU. I don't see it as that. We've got
That's what
internal.
we're doing in this. That's what Corn Ferry wants to get this.
Well, I personally see, and what Nichelle just said, is we have staff who are trying to keep up with the economy and inflation, and they've sort of been very patient. And to me, it's more about, are we making sure our staff has what they need to live their lives?
Let's ask a clear question.
Okay.
What is the average pay raise, percentage pay raise across the board for the plant board? Take 1 year or take 4 years? I'm asking them.
Oh.
I know what I know generally what it is, but
Yeah.
when you look at that, a state worker and a city worker and a county school employee and a city school employee would jump for joy for that average.
Yeah, I know, but what John's saying, and once again, guys, I'm seeing this a little bit from the outside because I'm trying to learn from you guys on budgets, is what John's saying is we compete with the state and the nonprofits in the community for some of our staff, but then some of our staff is competing directly with the private sector, and that's a whole different animal.
Mm-hmm.
But let me just ask you this, and this is
Yeah.
maybe me just, with inflation going up in the last few years, all the things have been going up, everything's getting more expensive, tariffs now are making things differently expensive. At a certain point, you know, it's as you said, it's two sides of a coin. You know, one side is what we pay internally, but one side is rates. And people in this community are moving up with the economy, hopefully, and their salaries and stuff. And so rates moving up eventually is part of that
Well,
equation.
ask another question. Is the COLA that's been set over the last few years, are we keeping up percentage-wise with the COLAs that have been going forth for the last 4 years? And yes,
Yeah.
we are over the COLAs.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, so the question you're asking, yes, we are keeping up.
Okay.
And that's why I have a problem.
Okay. Well, like I said, you guys, you and
Well,
John
and
have forgotten more than you know about.
And the only thing
budgets.
I would disagree with Steve on, and like I said, he and I
Yeah.
did this for many years, is in state government, we all see the COLA. We don't see the other side, because what happens in state agencies is when it comes to promotions, reclasses, merit raises, things like that, it's based on if the agency can afford it. If you want to do a grade change, and you say we need to do, and this has happened numerous times where transportation has wanted to do grade changes for their engineers to reduce the number of personal service contracts. Well, the first thing personnel and the governor's budget office does is they go back and say, can you come up with the money internally? Can you cut something else to fund it? And in theory, they come up with it and they're granted. And it's just like what Steve and what we've talked about here is the next year it comes around and that's now in the base going forward. But that's not, that line item is not budgeted separately in state government. It has to be absorbed within the operating budget, so if you wanna do a grade change promotion, it, maybe you leave a position vacant 6 months rather than 3, and that's how you afford it that first year. Then the next year, it's lost in the base again. I mean, it's tough to track in the aggregate, and of course, it's hard to figure state government and just look at the payroll raw, because you're looking at a payroll of 30,000 people. So vacancies can change the total payroll amount. You really gotta get into agency specific.
Yeah, well, and let me caveat one thing I did say, because, you know, I mentioned rates. That is always the struggle, but I think as David has made clear to us, I'm not putting you on the spot, is growth of new customers. And clearly, we don't have control over
Right.
that. I mean, we don't have control over bringing 5 new factories to town. That is the city, that is the industrial groups. We can kind of, sort of respond to what may be coming down the pike, and there is stuff coming down the pike, but maybe not to the scale. So it seems like that's the growth side, and sadly, we don't have a lot of control over that. We just have to sort of work with what we've got, so.
But the other side of that is that you know better than I know is the cost of energy. You know, what is that going to be in 2 or 3 years? And again, these things that I'm calling cancers sort of metastasize down the road, and now they start to affect rates. You know, the pay raises, I'm assuming, the pay raises in telecom will be absorbed by the telecom revenue, I assume, and vice versa on all of those. So if one of those divisions are less productive with revenue than the other, then there's a strain. There is a straining point in the overall budget, and these raises are going across all divisions. So I'm just saying that I'm not sure how you look at this without looking down the road and seeing, you know, there might be, you know, a train at the end of that tunnel.
Well, let me just throw one more thing out. As a board member, we have an amazing staff. We have amazing people who spend all their full time working on this stuff and advising us on these things. And it is our job to represent the community and make sure that this board, but ultimately we're being told by our senior staff that this is pretty important. And so I can't become an expert on this, you know, and I know you're much closer to that than I am, and John, you too. So I'm just gonna I just wanna understand. So I think I've got as much as I like Catherine's motion. I think that's all I have to say. But I'm just trying to understand it better.
Sure.
And think it out, so.
Anybody else have any comments, statements, questions? So we have a motion. Are you seconding, Catherine?
Sure.
So we have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
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 No.
Okay. Motion's approved. Michelle, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, thanks.
Next item
What else? Thank you.
is department first,
No,
any
we gotta finish.
huh?
We
Now
gotta
at this
finish
point,
the whole thing.
we need a motion.
We also gotta do the service center too.
Oh, the service center's already rolled in, right, David?
Yes.
Yes, in that,
Okay.
Yeah.
in the document that shows us any changes from the budget from our public meeting, we have that capital project included, an actual reduction of 69,250, plus the changes we just discussed with payroll.
So the motion would be to take the budget, this document, as amended by the sheet David gave us from the changes on June 12th, as amended by the 2 actions we just acted on, and rolled into one document and authorize you to prepare it in final and submit it to the Department of Local Government.
Yes, and we will provide copies to you all once that's complete, and make sure all the documentation's done as it should be.
Okay?
So
So
moved.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
Budget's adopted. Next item is item 4. Information item, any public comment, Ms. Poe?
No, sir.
Next one, departmental reports. Mr. General Manager?
Yes, sir. We're gonna start public information.
Good evening. We have finished the school year, and so in the past couple of weeks, we've been giving out scholarships. So I'll just announce the ones that we've given. Since 2018, we've partnered with a Rotary Club and their Youth Fund Foundation to give out scholarships. We give 3 a year, and in the amount of $2,000 each, one to a student from each public high school. This year, our FPB youth scholarships went to Ben Schrader from Frankfurt High School. He's going to be majoring in business administration at the University of Kentucky. Landon Giles from Western Hills High School. He's going to be majoring in integrated strategic communications and marketing at UK. And our third scholarship went to Aiden Tilk from Franklin County High School, and he's going to be studying welding at the Kentucky Welding Institute. So we're very proud of all of the graduates this year, especially those that stood out and were able to receive the $2,000 scholarship from the Frankfurt Plant Board. With that, I'm going to leave it at that because we've had a long meeting. So thank you guys. Are there any questions?
Okay,
No?
thank you.
All right.
Next is our Network Operations Center, Darren Rimble.
Good evening. Your knock report for May, it looks like the knock entered 686 trouble calls, handled 3,049 phone calls. On the locate side of the house, we conducted 617 locates. That's 6,489 for the year, for the fiscal year. So not much else to report from the knock. You know, business as usual. Summer's here, it's getting busy.
You still fully staffed?
Fully staffed.
Fully
yep.
staffed?
Yep. But other than that, doing well.
Okay.
Any questions for me? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the customer service, April.
Good evening. You can find the customer service reports on page 125 to 129. So on page 125 is that customer service overview, which is the overview of our whole month of May. As you see, the average wait times, we did improve those last month, so we're pretty excited about that. They were under 2 minutes for tier 1 and tier 3 was just above 2 minutes, and then tier 2 was under a minute. And then if you take out those 4 peak days, which are centered around our non-pay disconnects, it's usually the day before, the day after, we were right at about a minute and under a minute on those. So definitely progress there. Of course, that really depends on staffing. And we are losing one of our tenured employees to Leanne, so we're gonna, be nice to Leanne. Yeah. So she is going, 18-year employee is going to purchasing. So we're gonna lose a little bit of experience, so we may see that number increase, and we're currently trying to hire. So we're gonna be hiring 2 instead of 1. As far as the customer contacts that we had last month, we had about 7,300 in total. 4,300 of those were calls, 14 walk-ins, and then 1,500 transactions with the cashiers. So those were drive-through transactions. The kiosk, we did make it over the 500 mark. So we had about 541 customers coming through the kiosk. So again, just to remind customers that we do have that available 24/7. It is protected. It's well lit. We've got someone watching the cameras 24/7. So hopefully we'll get some more customers utilizing those kiosks.
I did drive through one night just after you had described it last time to see, and it is well lit there underneath.
It's definitely.
Yeah.
And then there is someone here at the knock. So it's very safe. And we do have a lot of people who come after hours because I like to get in there and look at the reporting. And then there at the bottom you'll see Google reviews. We had 15 positive, and then 3 that had service issues or inquiries. And we always do try to reach out to those. We respond to all of our Google reviews. However, the ones that if they do have an issue, if we can figure out who they are, we do respond to those. We try to. And then just a reminder for customers. Right now we're looking at, summertime storms. We talked about it the last few months, but again, portal notifications, go set up your portal notifications to get service announcements so that if we have outages, you can text, email, get a phone call when we have any type of outages or anything that's going on at FPB. And then my FPB app is another great resource. We have about 2,200 customers that are signed up for that right now. We have about 16,600 that are signed up for the portal. So we would like to get those portal customers to start using that app and getting portal push notifications. But that's really all I have, unless you all have questions.
Any questions for April?
All right.
Thank you.
all.
Next is a telecommunication, Adam.
Good afternoon. The telecom report starts on page 131 of your board packet with customer numbers. Looks like we added about 300 next-band customers this month, so that's pretty close to average. We're trying to keep that number up as we roll into the cutover. We had 5 outages for the month. 4 were blown fuses related to storms, and then we had a tree come down on Meadow Lane. Trouble call was about average for the month. As far as next band, we are actually activating a section of Georgetown Road, Elkhorn Terrace, Shady Lane, and a part of Duncan Road. And we're still, crews are out in the county working on the grant areas as well. So,
Any update from when you were up here with us during the budget on our easements?
No, nothing really new to report there. There might be a few more signs, but I haven't talked to Mr. Burnett. And of course, I seen the email about them opening up the window again for pre-qualification.
Yeah.
So I'd say with them opening up, that might push that, before we find out anything, maybe to the fall. So
And that was in
really the
regard, I
reason
think you all
behind
saw
that.
the email that, we applied for the latest round, that limited area. And apparently, we had heard that we might know something in June, and now what they said they're reopening, people can, providers can apply again. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is electric department, Scott and Travis.
Good evening, everybody. For the electric report, starts on page 135, goes to 138. I'll start with our normal SAIDI report, which is 38.548. Page 136 will show your top 10 outages for the month with 1,617 customers. I'll go ahead and point out that the largest customer outage was, if you look on the 5-4, excuse me, we had a protection device that fell on Versailles Road about noon that day. So that was the largest. It was one large area, so that's the rise for the number of customers affected. Page 137, you'll see your pie charts with the percentages of the types of outages, and then on page 138, you'll see the total of those also. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Scott? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. For AMI, electric installs are at 21,702, so we are at 98% for electric. Water installs 14,815, and they're kind of trailing right behind us at 86%. The SEPA report begins on page, excuse me, just a second here, 139 of your board package. So our SEPA charges, our total SEPA bill is $83,175. Our net payment for SEPA was $126,075 for a profit to the board of $42,900, which brings us through April of 2025 at $531,757. So starting off strong with SEPA for 2025.
Is that about, David, where you were tracking what you thought would bring in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
For next QMEA, I really don't have anything new to report to the board, but I will happy to answer any question if you have any.
Any questions for Gary? Okay.
Okay, next is our safety. Tyler, please.
Safety report begins on pages 143 to 144. There was no OSHA recordables for the month of May or vehicle accidents.
Good.
Yeah, very good.
Any questions for? Thank you, sir.
Next is our water distribution. Bruce.
Good evening, everybody. Page 145, two bar graphs represent the two new water services that were installed. Page 146 represents two water main breaks. Those two water main breaks, the information on page 147 shows we had two water outages associated with those. You know, crews working really hard, super busy, a lot of development going on, a lot of water main being laid. Also, you know, the basic hydrant flushing still going on. That'll be wrapping up probably next 6 weeks, give or take, weather and, you know, emergencies throughout the day. But we got about 1,445 hydrants flushed, got about 500 left. And then AMI, we're roughly 87, 88% complete in the water. Other than that, everything's busy and business as normal.
Is summer worse or better than winter in terms of pipe breakage, or doesn't really make any difference? It's what it is.
A lot of times in the winter, people associate the real cold weather, pipes breaking, which is, you know, that is common. You know, also, I mean, we've had a whole lot of leaks when it gets really dry. The ground starts to shift, it gets too dry. Not obviously right now, but you know, like August, September, drought conditions, we actually have a lot of main breaks through the ground shifting and, you know, really busy during a drought situation, so.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Next is the water treatment plant, Brendan.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. For the month of May, the water treatment plant treated 248,310,000 gallons of water for a daily average of 8 million gallons a day. Lot 4 averaged 14,684 cubic feet per second for an average of 9.48 billion gallons per day, and there was 8.8 inches of rainfall recorded this month. We're about 60% done with our filter valve project, and then we also got the roof was replaced on the low story building, so we got that completed. So that's all done.
Good. Any questions? Well, while you're there, you want to go on and take item 6.1?
I'll do it.
Consider award of bid invitation number 1821, annual price contract for water treatment chemicals, July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Your favorite contract of the whole year, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm all over this potassium pomegranate.
Oh, yeah.
Permanganate. I believe that's pronounced permanganate.
Yeah, that's what it said, yeah.
That's what we all knew what he meant. So this is just, you know, we prepared this bid, and there were 14 reverse auction bidders this year, and after reviewing each bid, staff recommends awarding bid 1821 to the lowest bidders, meeting specifications except for the powder activated carbon, which is based on quality and quality testing. I'm sorry.
Are you seeing any trend? I mean, it's all over the place, pluses and minuses.
Yeah, you know, the polyaluminum chloride, so that's aluminum. So they told me that tariffs on aluminum were up, so they said that was, you know, I kind of saw that coming. But it's been going up every year for, gosh, since COVID, it's really gone up. So, but it's just kind of hit or miss, I guess.
Anybody have any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts are awarded. Next item is item 6.2. Consider award of bid invitation number 1824, annual price contract for bulk sodium chloride to the Dyco Company, July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Brandon?
Yeah, so on this, we do a sealed bid. So there were 2 sealed bids, and then the winning bid was the Dyco Company, and they meet specs. So it went down just a fraction. So.
Okay. Any questions on this? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts awarded.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item is 6.3. Consider holding a public hearing to add certified water meter testing fee to the FPB tariff. Ms. Dutta? You've come up with a money-making idea here, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give credit to the water department, so I just kind of I'm presenting it for them. So
You're just in sales.
That's right. We got to do something, right? So the water department performs meter testing typically under two conditions. One is routine testing throughout the distribution system to ensure the meters are reading accurately, and the second condition is when a customer has a question about their meter accuracy. They get a bill that doesn't make sense. They request a meter test. So currently, the meter department tests not only our customer meters, but they also provide the service to one of our wholesale customers. And in that case, they'll bring just a batch of meters and we'll test them. Our meter test bench is capable of testing 10 meters at a time. But the one thing that we couldn't perform was certified meter testing that kind of meets the qualifications under PSC guidelines. So in that case, customers typically send it to a testing facility in Bowling Green. So just kind of following up on this service that we can provide on our test bench, the meter department supervisor, he kind of got an understanding of the PSC guidelines, and really it's a self-certification. You know, there's certain guidelines they follow. They have to attend a course, take a test, maintain all that documentation, and we also made some adjustments to the test bench. Basically, before they tested based on the volume of water that went through a meter, they test on different flow rates, low, intermediate, and high. To follow the PSC guidelines, it's weight-based now, so we have a calibrated scale that an approved company will come in once a year and ensure that scale's reading properly. And so just based on what we know they were paying at the testing facility in Bowling Green and the labor it takes to perform the test, we're proposing a $50 fee, which would need to be added to our tariff. So I'm requesting the board to conduct a public hearing at the next board meeting so that we can include this $50 fee into our tariff.
Sherman, so that will include, if one of the things you say here is we'll be able to do this for other water companies if they want us to do it, and that tariff would apply to those companies as well, as long, not only our customers but also our wholesale customers.
Okay, so I'll clarify. It's specific to water providers.
Okay.
Now we do have, like, if one of our customers requests a test, now that's going to involve a truck roll, labor to go out there, either bring the meter back to our testing facility. So we are going to maintain the existing fee for customers. So this was strictly for a water provider that brings.
Providers. Okay.
And they'll have to bring it to us and pick it up. So we're saving that time as well.
Okay.
And this would be to schedule in our July meeting, the public hearing. Is that correct?
So I make a motion to hold a public hearing at our July meeting for the water meter testing fee tariff.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We'll have a hearing in July.
John, can I ask a question?
Sure.
How does AMI play into this thing, into this in any way?
Not in this part.
Okay.
Like typically, if it's for this, it's when a customer has a complaint. Now, if we catch something that's unusual, we'll reach out to the customer directly and let them know, hey, there's something going on with your meter. And then if they say, okay, we want it tested, then that's going to go with the actual customer-related fee. So AMI helps catch things, but it doesn't address this.
Next item is item 6.4. Consider changes to electric tariff for renewable energy credit purchases. Travis?
Good evening again. So this would be meeting number 3 of 3 for the changes to the electric tariff for the REC program. Just very briefly, our current tariff has a 2-tiered structure. So this would be voluntary program for customers that want to buy renewable energy certificates through FPB. Again, the current tariff has 2 tiers, a $5 residential and a $13 commercial tier. There were reasons why we set it up originally that way, but it really serves neither our customers or the board any purpose. So we're asking the board to finalize the tariff changes to consolidate that to one rate of $5 each. So again, how it works, customers, if you're interested in renewable energy certificates, you could just contact the board and you could buy those directly through us. We can buy them at $5, so that it would just be a direct pass-through rate under the new structure.
And we had the hearing on this? And
The
we
hearing
had
was
no
last
comments?
No comments at all.
No comments?
Correct. No comments.
So do we have a motion?
Motion. Or so moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Adopted. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Number 6.5, consider approving 1, increasing the rate for cable network pass-through fee, increasing Number 2, increasing rate for bulk cable 1 and bulk cable 2. Number 3, defining new Nextband internet packages and rates and new add-on services. Number 4, establishing Nextband Now package and fee. And number 5, updating Section 8 of the tariff. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is just like Travis's item. We held our public hearing last month. Didn't receive any comments there or since. And we're proposing to increase the rate for our cable network pass-through fee, which you know, as a reminder, is just an absolute pass-through of the cost that we're required to pay for the channels that we distribute on classic cable. I've got a handy chart that I update every year, and unfortunately it continues to go in the same direction. Mr. Schneider, you had asked where you add the retransmission fees. Yeah. That's the purple line. It's like a subset of that orange line, so that you don't add them together.
You don't add them together, right?
Yeah. So that's the first item. A 5% increase is what we're proposing on the cable network pass-through fee, and then additionally, bulk cable 1 and bulk cable 2. Those are driven by our classic cable fees. So asking to increase those at the same rate as the cable network fees. The third item are proposing 4 new packages for our Nextband services, which we are excited about bringing new features and value to our customers with that. And then item 4 is our Nextband Now over-the-top video package, which will allow folks to get cable channels without the expensive sports and local broadcast channels. And then finally, item 5 is the update to the tariff for cable 10 and leased access to give more flexibility on new content and new channels in that space. So happy to answer any questions you guys may have on this item.
And again, we had received no comments regarding this matter at all during the comment periods, correct?
Yep.
Any questions for Harvey?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, I mean, I'm pretty excited for this because that's the first time we started offer 5 gig to the residential anyone. And also another part is the outdoor Wi-Fi. If a customer have a large yard, they want to cover all the way back, this is also available. I'm pretty excited for too, yes.
I make a motion that we approve the increased rate for cable network pass-through fee for bulk cable 1 and 2, for defining new Nextband internet packages and rates, establishing Nextband Now package fee, and updating Section 8 of the tariff as defined and considered at the public hearing in May.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Next item is item 6.6, consider approving AMC Networks renewal. Harvey? No, you're... And before you try to move after that one, you got one more after that, buddy.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I just figured we just do them all. So this is a renewal of a programming agreement. Staff and the Cable Advisory Committee recommend the approval. It's an NCTC agreement with a term through April of 2029. The AMC Networks agreement covers AMC, the channel itself, as well as BBC America and Sundance on classic cable, as well as IFC, BBC World News, and WE TV on preferred cable. This agreement actually affords a reduction in our rates beginning next year, and it also gives us the ability to resell the AMC Plus, which is their over-the-top service. And so there's a revenue share on that, as well as some opportunities for us to package that with some of our internet services or other video packages. So I think it's a win-win as far as this agreement goes.
Any questions for Harvey on this? Hey, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. This doesn't affect MeTV, right?
No, sir.
No, yeah.
I'll let you know when that comes
It's
up.
important stuff, John. That's good stuff. Item 6.7, consider approving HBO, Cinemex, and HBO Max amendments. Harvey.
This is another renewal, an NCTC agreement with a term through July of 2028. It covers the rights to the HBO cable channels, as well as the Cinemax cable channels, and also HBO Max, which is the formerly known as Max and also formerly known as HBO Max beforehand, which allows us to authenticate the HBO Max for our customers who subscribe to HBO. There are no additional carriage requirements or obligations, and just recommending approval of these three amendments.
Okay, any questions of Harvey?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor of it, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Item, Harvey, great job. Item 6.8, and you got, if you go to your many handouts you have, this is a handout, it's multi-pages. It's item 6.8, consider award of bid invitation number 1826, annual price contract for ductile iron pipe, ductile iron fittings, and tapping sleeves. And since this was, the agenda was printed, Leanne's got the updates here on the pricing, so, Leanne?
Good evening. We purchased most of our pipe, fittings, and tapping sleeves from an annual price contract. Quantities on the bid are estimates, and vendors are advised that the orders may exceed or fall short of the estimates. And this year's bid invitation was sent to 5 vendors with 2 responses received. And staff recommends awarding all categories to Core and Main as they are the lowest bid. And I would like to note that the pipe is up 4.25% from last year. Fittings is 16.5%, and tapping sleeves is almost 7%.
And is that, you think, a trend we're gonna keep seeing, or do you think it's a one-time bump and it's gonna level off, or?
I really don't know.
Yeah. So, okay. Any questions? You got the handout there. Any questions of Leanne? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts awarded. Next item is consider renewal of price contract for valves and hydrants to Ferguson Water Works. You've also got a handout in front of you on that one. Leanne?
All right. Last year, we also bid the valves and hydrants along with the annual price contract on the pipe bid. And Ferguson Water Works was awarded the hydrants and the valves at that time. And they have since offered us a 1-year extension on their current pricing. And after opening the bids today for the pipe and the other materials, staff feels that it's a good idea to renew this contract. It's the same pricing.
Any questions of Leanne? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts awarded. Mr. General Manager, do you have any items?
I don't have any comment, but we do have one old business.
Do we have a guest speaker here, Mr. Travis?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
If you all look,
Travis talked to me today.
you got a color
and-
handout here,
Yes.
and
We don't want
Travis-
anything weighed, so
you know,
that's why.
Travis has some bad news, but he's already solved it, and I think, Jason, you've talked to him about it. Travis, take it.
Yeah, Jason and I talked, and I think, matter of fact, he solved it much more so than I did. But so the handouts you have here, admittedly, they don't make much sense without context, so I'll try and go briefly. The top page, as you may remember, we have applied for 2 REAP grants through the USDA. The first one is awarded. The second one is in their queue. We don't know if or when it would be awarded, but so that's the status on it. So proposed solar field 1 is the one we are preparing to begin construction on. Again, that's the one that's been awarded. The top sheet is the layout as originally planned. We got to the point where we're starting to move some dirt, got all our permits in place, talking to the contractor. There were issues with the geotech report. As you may recall, one of the drivers for trying to do this project here is it was a fill site, not great for a lot of other projects. Well, they did their boring samples, the geotech report comes back, the tracking manufacturer, so the actual panels will sit on a tracking system that will follow the sun to collect the energy. They took opposition to what they found in the geotech report. So there are a few options we've discussed. If you flip to the second page, that was kind of the initial proposal from the contractor. Essentially, we would just be stacking the panels in a different layout. It would be essentially the same system as originally planned. It would be the 1 megawatt tracking system that we had signed on for originally. This would work. I think it would get us going. The concern here is if you flip back to the first page, again, we had already applied for the second REAP grant, and you can see their layout there. We would be encroaching on that quite a bit. So even though it's not awarded, if we went this route, we'd at least be creating more challenges for that second phase. And Jason, stop me if you think that's out of line. But so we think if we went with this second page solution, we'd be encroaching on the other project. Potentially that would expose us to having to go through environmental again, or at least updating the environmental on the project that's already been awarded through the USDA. That's obviously a big time concern. I think that's, again, Jason, stop me if I'm wrong, 90 days probably at least, very likely to re-go through environmental if we're changing the footprint that much. So Jason and I, again, we're talking, you may recall in the original proposal from Solar Energy Solutions for this project, they proposed two systems. One was the project that was the tracking system, which we had originally awarded. The other was a fixed tilt system, kind of like what we have out here. The panels don't move, they just orient towards the sun and they stay there. We had gone with the tracking system because it output a little bit more energy over the years, so it was attractive at the time. Again, with the findings in the geotech report, one thing, and I think Jason and I, again, don't stop me if don't let me speak for you, but I think we're kind of leaning towards going back to a fixed tilt system that they had, again, originally proposed. The third page is a ballasted system, so you can see, this is not the product exactly, but just it's kind of representative of what we were looking at. You put a big concrete slab on top of the dirt and you don't really have to care so much about what's underneath it. Again, we're still kind of trying to work through these issues with the contractor. I think after talking to Jason earlier today, that was the direction we were leaning more is, hey, let's work with the contractor to go back to the fixed tilt system. I traded emails with their general manager earlier today. He said we can still do that. It would still be within budget. I think there's some fine tuning to make sure we're still good on the layout and we know where everything's gonna go. But again, just wanted to kind of put it all out there to the board, get any feedback you have or direction you'd like to send me on to get things moving forward. One of the big things we would like, if at all possible, to be online this year. We're not bound by the REAP grant to be done this year, but with all the tax changes that I'm sure everybody is well aware of, in the most recent House and Senate bills, again, I don't think anything is directly or openly on the chopping block yet, but we just think sooner the better, right? So that's kind of the approach is, hey, let's make a decision, try and move forward and get this project really moving.
So what are you looking for tonight? Are you looking for approval or just general authority to pursue this other option, or what is it you need from the board tonight?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when we originally awarded it, the board directed us to move under the tracking system. Right. So maybe it would be appropriate for the board to take action to change course. I mean, you tell me. That's kind of my gut feeling is we had taken action on that specific option that was in the original proposal from Solar Energy Solutions. Again, I understand I don't have a revised contract document before you tonight, but if it makes sense for the board, maybe the request for motion. I'm sorry.
Provide latitude to do.
Yeah, I mean, we
either one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you want to send me on a direction and say, hey, come back with a document that memorializes all these changes. Again, we're not talking about changing budget.
Right.
That's not changing. It's just with each of these different options, there's a few risk areas, so I want to make sure that the board understands.
Jason?
I'll jump in here. Yeah, he called me today and we talked this out, and a few moving parts here. Mm-hmm. Number one, if you guys look at the first picture, that's phase one and phase two. Those are 2 potential megawatts. As we know, the community and the city has pushed for trying mm-hmm. to have a large scale solar, but have had issues finding properties. Mm-hmm. So, even if the REAP grant doesn't come through for the phase two, there may be something in the future or something even closer down the road where we can green light an additional megawatt working with the city or something, because they are looking for land to put
Right.
solar on. Additionally, so, you know, we're constrained by these easements with KU. So if you look at the second one, if we were to do just the phase one, that, I think it kind of kills our ability to add a second megawatt somewhere around here, especially if you're dealing with, you know, a tilting mechanism and then the second megawatts, you know, it just sort of, you have two different things. So I like trying to keep it in the different footprints that we already have. The other reason for that is very much with the USDA. I mean, the Heritage Council spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of money on doing environmental reviews, archaeological reviews to give us that phase one, is it clean? But we also did that on phase two. But right now the USDA is kind of honed in on that phase one footprint to go back to them and say, hey, we want to amend that footprint. It just might be opening cans of worms. The minimum which might be that, we'll go talk to the Heritage Council, and that could put us in the 90-day, them just taking 90 days just to look and go, oh, that's no big deal, but it can still slow us down 90 days. In my opinion, we are moving at full momentum now. The hydrostatic report, sorry, I've actually never even seen one of those.
The big
term.
concrete shoes. Yeah.
No, the term, the hydro, geotechnical report,
yes.
sorry. I just spaced for a second there. It took a long time to kind of get in order, and then we were running into these issues. If you look at the very last page, why I like the ballasted approach is the other sort of unknown that we had is, according to the archaeological work in the Heritage Council, if we started drilling these, 8-foot pylon holes, and suddenly Indian pottery started coming out of the hole, we gotta stop everything. Right. We gotta immediately drop back and go get everybody back involved and start spending money again. If we do just the surface mounted concrete stuff, we're just rolling. You know, we don't even have to worry that there's something under the ground we're gonna turn up. So if speed is of the optimal, going back to the fixed panel that's sitting on the surface, these things are gonna weigh a massive amount, so they're not gonna move around or shift around, they're just gonna be there. I think it's the best plan. And then, I don't remember it because it's a million years ago, but you know, a year and a half ago when we were looking at the proposal, I did remember there wasn't that big of a difference in energy production between the fixed and the tracking. Typically, tracking systems, single phase tracking and two axis tracking come into effect in markets where peak demand is really important, like New York and California, where even shifting it 2 hours in one direction could mean a lot more money from generating the electricity. We don't have that. We're gonna dump it into our grid. It's gonna disappear. This is a fraction of our base load. So I was actually initially wanting to go with the fixed anyway, because in my mind, less moving parts, the better. And even when we were talking to Solar Energy Solutions, my biggest question on the single axis is how many gyros are there? And they said 1 per string. And so, okay, it's not 200, it's more like 30. But still, you know, I mean,
less moving parts.
Less moving parts. I mean, these ideas, these
yeah.
panels are warranted for 20, 30 years. But then you start getting moving parts in, and maybe it's only warranted for 10. Suddenly, you've got people out there trying to fix it, and maybe the system's not working properly. So fixed, it solves us on not going deep in the ground. It solves us on not having extra moving parts we don't need. They just sit out there, make power. Occasionally have to Windex and squeegee them. Joking. And then it just lets us move forward as fast as possible. Because right now, our ability to build these systems at the best rate for our customers, whoever ends up off taking this power, is based on the ITC's nonprofit carve out. And right now in the House bill, they're taking something that probably was going to send 3032, and they're trying to axe it this year with the idea you have to start your project. And there's still even some question, what does starting a project mean? So we've got the grant, we've got this. It's a huge incentive. We should just move forward as fast as possible.
So what's your
motion? We want to make a motion to change this to a fixed.
I would like to make the motion to allow Travis to move to a fixed system if that makes sense and is aligned with the USDA, because I don't want to lose the time in a month to come back. Because we do have to go back to the USDA. We have to say, hey, we're shifting slight technology. It's not the panels. They're not going to worry.
It's the rotation, yeah.
The only thing that they could have a slight pushback on, which I'm not too concerned about, is just the fractional 5% reduction in energy. But when I asked Travis to ask Solar Energy Solutions, I assume the tracking does cost a little bit more than a fixed, I know.
Yeah.
And then also, we're not putting huge boring holes in the ground, we're just having little concrete footprints. Once again, very heavy, so they're not gonna walk off anywhere. I hope that maybe it's a slightly lower cost and we can maybe add some additional panels that get us into, that close that gap. Because what the USDA is gonna look at is power in, power out, per dollar invested, and I just wanna make sure we get as close to that, so it makes it as easy for them to go, yep, no problem, keep rolling. I don't think they're gonna have an issue with this. They allow some scope changes because they understand these 2 and 3 year projects and things change. But I'm also glad, from what I'm hearing, is Solar Energy Solution is staying with their pricing for the panels, right? Where they're not trying to reprice them. So we've got a pretty good deal here. It's just like full steam ahead, in my opinion. So thanks for listening. That's
So,
just.
Hans, do we need to take a formal motion, or is what Jason has described, do we need a motion, or just general direction to staff, or?
I think if Travis understands the direction, you wouldn't need a motion, but it's the board's, either if you wanted to formalize it more, then you could, but as long as the staff is understanding what the expectation is, then I think it's good too.
If you can authorize staff to
Let's
do
go
it.
ahead. I'll go ahead and do a motion to authorize staff to make necessary design changes to the Solar 2, I'm gonna call it Solar 2, array, in keeping with getting the project done as early as possible and with the least amount of cost and encroachment on, certainly no encroachment on Solar Array 1.
And I'd make one just little amendment. I just want to try to hit that $2 million mark because that maximizes the grant. So it's least cost. That's why I'm saying if we end up somehow coming slightly below because how we're changing, I'd like to build back up to get to the $2 million just to maximize the $1 million.
Spending up to $2 million on the project to take full advantage of the grant.
And it might be a little bit higher just by the nature that we were hitting right around that, but I just want to make sure we at least maximize $2 million to make sure we get the grant full grant.
You got that, Ms. Poe?
What we can do is when we have a final agreement in the material, any change, we can always bring back to the board to prove it, to make sure every document is closed. But meanwhile, we just don't want to delay. You gave us our rights, we move on, make sure we update to you.
I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman, if Kathy's got it down.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion second to do what we just talked about. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Okay.
Thank you, Travis.
And let me clarify, because I'll be working with Travis on this. We basically just said that if they're needing to order materials or they're needing to go ahead and get started and you're doing a new design, we've got the clearance to all do that along this new path. It's just, at the end of the day, he's bringing an update back to the board.
Right.
We got it all done, we're rolling hard, we're good, and everybody's happy, he said.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Travis, thank you very much.
Thank you all for such a quick solution.
Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, I will request permission to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61A10-1C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding the contract matter, insurance matter, administrative agency matter, declaratory judgment regarding property, and an MDL matter. Also under KRS 61A10-1B for deliberation on the future acquisition of a specific piece of property. Since publicly discussing the said property would likely affect its value, and also under 68-110-1N to select a successful bidder for the award of a local contract.
We have a motion to go into closed session. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor of going into closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're going into closed session. Everybody want to be back in closed session?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor of coming out of closed, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're out of closed session. Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, there's only one item that we need to take action on from the closed session. I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to respond affirmatively to Farmdale Water District's request to express our support to make sure that water is provided to any potential industrial park project in the southern part of the county.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor of it, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.